Hello, guys, and welcome to Indiana Sports Connection. This is a special Friday afternoon live stream edition. So, we're just going to get into talking about. I started doing these Friday afternoon live stream editions really because at the end of the week, I would have like 2 or 3 different things that maybe I had like a minute or 2-minute video to talk about, and I would just never have the time to talk about those things. So, it's better to talk about it on here live. And everybody can comment about it, and I will read your comments at the end. So comment down below. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Aaron. I am your residential anchor, and if you look at the thumbnail, we're going to be talking about Indiana football. We're going to talk about the Indiana-Nebraska game tonight because this is a must-win game for the Indiana Hoosiers. It is. Yes, good afternoon to you, Rick Bustos. Thank you for being here because we really got to get into talking about the Indiana basketball game first, because this game going up against Fred Hoiberg, and finally Tominaga is gone, but we have another 3-point shooter that's going to be sitting there in the wings, and it's Connor Essegian. Although I watched this team in Nebraska is going to be really fired up because they got shellacked by Michigan State at the Breslin Center. So and I watched that game the other night, Nebraska had a total beatdown there. I mean, it wasn't a total beatdown. They just went through a stretch of about 10 minutes when they just could not buy a bucket. And so Nebraska is going to be really out. And this is a team in Indiana that they're really looking at that's probably like they're licking their chops like, look, we've been able to beat this team. We've been able to beat them with passing and all of these other things. I'm going to read you the take on the game, just talking about the statistics. Opponents attempt threes on 57% of their field goals against Nebraska, while Indiana is reluctant to shoot. Sometimes something has to give. Which side does that really favor? Well, I mean, this person will give the edge to Nebraska because it's like their style of play and Indiana's offensive attack. They want to put pressure on Indiana's ball handlers, force turnovers, and potentially minimize Ballo the same way that they did Ryan Kalbrenner. Ballo isn't the caliber of passer Kalbrenner is, so they could force turnovers by putting extra bodies on the Hoosiers' big man. Plus, Nebraska is at home, which is the ultimate neutralizer. This is going to be a tough game for the Hoosiers. I mean, like a month ago, I kind of thought they're just going to roll over Nebraska because of the amount of talent they've had. And after watching, the Louisville games, what happened at Atlantis, that is not the case. We really, really, really need to see Mike Woodson and these Hoosiers go on the road and get a victory. And if you've been watching my videos, you probably think this guy hates the team or he hates Mike Woodson so much. It's just not the case because, look, I'm still going to be rooting for the team tonight. I really need to see Miles Rice play better and better and better. And very, very closely, I'm going to be watching his interactions with Mike Woodson. One of the most influential comments I got in the past couple of days, and I rewound this and watched it several times, and look, I am a guy who loves hard coaching. I love Bob Knight. I love guys that coach people hard. So it's hard for me to look at just an interaction where Mike Woodson was screaming at Miles Rice and think, what's going on there, where this guy kind of then turned into a shell of himself in the minutes following. But one commenter on there, and then I went back and watched the game. It was just spot on because after Mike Woodson's personality and how he gets along with Miles Rice and Miles Rice, how he's able to push this team along that is the catalyst. That is the straw that stirs the drink. If Mike Woodson gets in Miles Rice's face, and look, I don't agree with that. If these are cupcake kids that they can't take any type of criticism, then that's their own fault. But when are we going to see something give? When are we going to see Miles Rice get pushed to the point where he really doesn't let it affect him, and he just learns from it and takes his game to the next level. That's what we really need to see out of him. I know maybe Mike Woodson's been pushing him. I'm sure he's been pushing him in all kinds of ways, but we're just not seeing it from the play on the court. And that was one of the best comments that I got from somebody that really, gave me some insight into going back and looking what was happening in the game. And there was something there. There was definitely something there that happened in the last game that kind of took him out of it. I got some clips lined up here. Tim Brando has a great take on Indiana football because I loved hearing that. He was on with Jim Coyle yesterday. We're going to hear that clip, and then we're also going to hear CJ West, and then at the end, we're going to talk about Billy Belichick, and then I have a comedian that I'm going to show at the end of this. When I first started doing this show, I thought it was like everybody wants to be, do a show when they're a kid. So I'm going to put one of my favorite comedians on talking about the Buffalo Bills. I only thought this was good because it really relates to maybe us being downtrodden as Indiana basketball fans or as Indiana football fans for all those years. So I just thought it was like a hilarious take. But if this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button down below. Thank you for being part of Indiana Sports Connection. Let's take a look. So the spread on the game for the Notre Dame game from BetUS. This is who also sponsors the channel. So use my promo code Indiana125 if you want to save 125% on your first 3 deposits. Thank you so much to BetUS for sponsoring the channel. But we look at the spread right here. Indiana 7.5 point underdog, and the over under is 115 and 105. I'm not sure why that is different. The money line 300 for Notre Dame, and Indiana is a 250 underdog, and the over under is 50.5 is the over under on the. So make your bets. Go to BetUS and make your bets. Thank you so much to them for sponsoring the channel. Appreciate that so much. Yeah, sorry, I have to produce this entire show by myself. The hillbilly monkey today, he doesn't work on Fridays, so he's just not doing it. So let's get into this clip here. Tim Brando, who he did the IU Purdue game, and really a great guy who's been around for a really, really long time. And I like listening to what he had to say on with Jim Coyle. But let's put that clip on of him and what he had to say, because he is one. I'm trying to pick out the people that are picking IU to win, and then we'll talk about, what a lot of takes out there are on the whole IU Notre Dame fiasco that is coming up.
With somebody that I know has been around longer than me. That doesn't happen much in my business. And I said, I appreciate that, Coach. I said, I would have loved to have talked to you at Alabama, but you know how Saban is. He won't let the assistants talk. And he knew that, and we chuckled a little bit about it. So it was great. I think you guys are going to win this game. I like Indiana to beat Notre Dame. I do. And I think the quarterback, I had seen him in Ohio. We opened our season with Ohio and San Diego State. Spencer and I did in 23. And he looked good and got hurt in that game in the second quarter. But I was really impressed with him when meeting with him and when he played. And so he's a transfer that really did pay huge dividends. And then when you look at that entire team of JMU guys and transfers, you see what Cignetti did. He brought a collection of winners from a program as the foundation of his program. And it worked big time. And I think you're just going to see more of this at Indiana. So I think the matchup is perfect. I think he's playing with house money. He knows that. All the pressure's on Notre Dame. And Indiana is still, a program that has a lot of doubters nationally. And I think this is a game where they can really prove a lot of the critics wrong. And he's going to use that. He's going to use that big time as an emotional tool to get this win. I really believe it.
Absolutely. I've said it many times.
All right. I mean, you got to love that take. It's like, I do think that Indiana has a lot of national doubters. I think a lot of people don't think that Indiana has any chance in this game whatsoever because Notre Dame has the pedigree type of players that when it comes to this time of year, or it's just like that type of program gets the top level recruits. So we're never given a chance in a game like this. I'm going to tell you something. Notre Dame and Notre Dame fans, and I don't know about, Notre Dame, the program, but in this is the type of thing that really feeds into your mind, and it's really hard to get rid of. But it's really, I see nobody of Notre Dame being able to really take Indiana seriously. And that's because there's like 100 years of not taking them seriously. So how can you take something seriously that's not been serious for 100 years? Well, the answer is you just can't. It's impossible. It would be impossible. Like, it's the same reason why Bobby Boucher and the Waterboy team, beat everybody in that movie. It's just like when it's so easy to overlook somebody. So could that happen? I'm going to tell you something I looked up today. First team, all Big Ten players. We got Aiden Fisher. We got West that we're going to hear from in 1 second here. We got Pons on the first team, all Big Ten. Now, that tells you right there that Indiana has some pedigree. We have 10 players that made it onto like whatever the next tier of players is. But that tells you right there that Indiana has players that have performed this year in the Big Ten. Maybe those guys weren't recruited from college as being top-level college guys like these guys that are at Notre Dame right now. But I don't know. There is something into going into something with the mindset. If Notre Dame goes into it with the mindset of like, and I don't think there's any way for them to erase that mindset. They've had that mindset for 100 years. You're not going to erase it in 1 week of knowing that you're going to play Indiana. You've always thought Indiana was dog water. You're going to think Indiana's dog water going into this game. Even I think Indiana was dog water. For a lot of years. I'm going to just be honest about it. There are many years I will straight up just tell you Indiana was just complete dog crap. I think we got something different here. I think we have something that's like on its way, on the up and up. Could we, dismantle Notre Dame? I'm going to be doing more like looking at individual players in the episode that I come out with on Monday. And I'm planning on coming out with an episode on Monday just about football and talking about 5 players on Notre Dame that I really want to look at, like the 5 players on Notre Dame that Indiana has to stop on Notre Dame's defense and on Notre Dame's offense to really make this into a game. So be looking out for that. Came out with a video today about Mike Woodson being a narcissist. So thank you so much for everybody for watching that video. And the video last week called Banned is doing absolutely fantastic. So I thank you all for watching those. And I just cannot believe how these videos are blowing up about Indiana basketball. And I've never experienced a time with Indiana basketball where I see so many people that have like one leg out the door. I haven't seen that really in a long, long time. I think you got to go back to like maybe 2007 or 8, something like that, before you saw people that were like kind of like turning their nose up to Indiana basketball. Now, part of that might be because the football's still going on. I'm still kind of like thinking that. But running this channel that like, last year we were getting a lot more excitement with the team, even with the team we had last year in like December and stuff like that. So it's kind of baffling to see, I don't makes me a little bit worried to think that like our basketball team is going to lose fans and lose that many fans, long term. But got a clip here from West, and this is one of my favorite guys, even beyond anybody on the team. But West, here's just a clip of what he had to say about the game coming up, and you got to love this.
Thing we do, make sure that it's an attacking mindset. It's everything is vertical. Everything is, on their side of the line of scrimmage. And that really helps me play at my, my potential. And, they just give me that confidence to be able to go do that and just, hey, like if you make a mistake, it's okay, but do it as fast as you can, do it as violent as you can, and try to go wreak havoc. That makes everything more simple on the back end. Wreaking havoc up there in the line of scrimmage, just creating a cluster in the quarterback's mind when he has to go through his reads and, when he wants to hand the ball off, or making a running back double guess himself if he wants to take that gap. You know what I'm saying? So all that just kind of comes into like.
I'd second guess it if I saw you up there.
But all that comes into that, attacking mindset, just being able to dominate everything in front of you.
And,
there you go. The attacking mindset. This guy, and I always watch the games like 2 times, and I always rewatch the games just so I can watch the defensive line. And so many times when I rewatch, he's like blocking like 2 guys up front. When you have one guy that can just like occupy 2 guys in football, that is worth like millions of dollars in gold to you as a football coach, because it's all about numbers. It's all about numbers. So West, he needs to get after it. Indiana really has to get after their quarterback. I think this is going to be a game where they're going to want to really bottle up Riley Leonard, not let him get to the outside. You really want to be disciplined on the outside and stay in your gaps and not let this guy get up the field. Thank you so much, Rick, about the episode this morning. Yeah, Indiana basketball, we're going to talk about that now, because the game tonight, more and more, this feels like a make it or break it time. I'll tell you, and since the Bahamas, I have heard so many people say, all I am waiting for is like to see how they play in the Nebraska game. It's like if Indiana goes out there and gets blown out by Nebraska in Lincoln tonight, it's bad, bad, bad. I know people are diehard fans and people will come back, but the bottom line is we are at like a lame duck. We have like a lame duck coach, and we have like a lame duck situation. We spent $5 million on a roster that don't look like they even want to be here. So if we see more of that, what will we have to say? If we see more of that, now it could be totally different, and they could totally redeem themselves, I know I quote Dumb and Dumber on this show all the time, but all the time when I'm thinking about Indiana basketball, all I think is, we got no food. We got no water. Our pets' heads are falling off. That's what it's like to be an IU basketball fan right now. Our pets' heads are falling off. We don't know what's going on. The coach is smoking cigars, not going over to recruiting trips. He's not doing anything. The guys are out there. We paid a lot of money to see these guys out there. What are we seeing? I don't like to get that upset about the entire thing. I like to wait. And sometimes when the games come on, I'm like numb inside when I'm watching them. I'm like, what is this? Like, now, sometimes we play these really weak teams, and we play a lot of weak teams because we're IU. We might as well play in the MAC and then just like have our players like parade around, and we just like play against Ball State, and then we have a parade in Muncie every year. It's like, yeah, we won the MAC, we're Indiana basketball. I think Mike Woodson would be okay with that. It's like just compete against a bunch of 2nd and 3rd grade teams, and then walk away like, made $4 million this year, beat a bunch of 2nd graders, But on a more serious note, Fred Hoiberg is going to be this guy's teams pass the ball like everywhere. Luckily, that guy with the real crimpy hair is gone, and I forget his name, but he was a rebounding crazy rebounding machine, but I believe he is injured or he is gone. I've watched a bunch of their games and he is not there. So, but Gary is a grown man, and Gary, who has been playing college basketball for like 24 years, Gary was playing college basketball back in the mid-90s. So this guy he's just one of those guys that I think will really go after it on the rebounding end against Indiana. And we know turnovers, rebounding, that's it for Indiana. Like, they have to shore up their turnovers and get more rebounds. Their defense does an awful job. And not only does their defense do an awful job, like, they don't finish out possessions. I watch all of these different teams and things, and I hear so many times when I watch the great teams of college basketball, like, what they are doing. They are finishing defensive possessions with great rebounding. That is a full circle team that you guard for 30 seconds, and even no matter what, they put that ball up. Everybody's got a body on a body, and you're getting that rebound because that is the most important thing. And I'm not even going to say, can Indiana do that? Because Indiana's not even trying to do that. But can somebody on Indiana please rebound the dang basketball for one time? I mean, can somebody, at one time in the last game, I believe it was Bryson Tucker, and he had a great game, or it was somebody down low. But you have to make contact with the person. You cannot, even if you're right underneath the rim, and you're waiting on the ball like this, but you don't have contact, you don't know where the body of the other person is, they're going to get the rebound over you. It's very simple. A lot of times you block out, not so that you can get the rebound, it's so that person really can't move. Like, if you put a body on somebody, they can't jump. Like, that's all there is to it. You got to put that body on somebody. Is that being taught in Indiana? I don't really think so. I get on these live streams and I start rambling in one direction or another. But this game tonight has me nervous about the state of Indiana basketball, because this is a big one. I think we really got to get this done to shore up. Like, I think we're going to lose a lot of fans. I mean, I had so many people from students that message me about how many people are selling their tickets that don't want to go to Indiana basketball games. That's happening on campus. People are gung-ho about the football. People don't want to go to Indiana basketball games. Students, we're losing fans in that way. Alarming. And I just don't want to see it go on. I've had people message me about what's really going to happen, like, within the program. If we start seeing, like, that we're losing fans and people are booing at the games and people are not going to the games. Now, I still say support the team, support the guys, go out there and cheer for the guys, separate the players from what is happening there. And that's just all there is to it, And just on a lighter note, I'm going to play, and this is one of my favorite new comedians. He's actually not even new, but it's just, he has some of the most, you will know a lot more about my personality after you watch this. You may love it, you may hate it, but Joe Pera, and he talks about the Buffalo Bills in this, and they're just, was recorded maybe like 10 years ago. So I just thought it has a lot to do with how we feel as Indiana fans. So if you can just picture that, rather than talking about the Buffalo Bills, he's talking about Indiana in this. And it's just one of the most hilarious things I've ever watched. So enjoy this, my friends. And I'll be right back. But
the Buffalo Bills are the best team in the NFL. I know I'd understand if you disagree on the grounds that your Patriots have beaten us the last 24 of 26 meetings, and that we haven't made the playoffs since 1999. But this year, when our season really falls apart around week 9, people in Buffalo will be reminded that there's life outside of football, and that maybe, just maybe, it's time to take the kids on a drive to the lake again. The Bills do this every year on purpose. They'll win a few early on to show that they could win them all if they really wanted to. And then, around mid-November, turn the ball over 3 times a game to bring families together. His quarterback, E.J. Manuel, upset about the interception he just threw? Hardly. Because he knows that the worse he plays this Sunday, the fuller the pumpkin patches will be the following Sunday. And instead of racing home after church to catch the pregame show, avid Bills fan Tom Boniello might instead take his family for breakfast at Costa's on Hurdle Road. Though the service might be slow, it probably will be, they're a popular breakfast spot known for their souvlaki breakfast. And more recently, their 2 entrees and a bottle of wine for $30 dinner special. It'll be valuable time spent with the kids. More precious than ever now that Tom's been working long hours to keep his young auto repair business afloat. And afterwards, his wife Sarah might go visit her mother because Tom will be home to watch the game or the kids instead of the game. And when she gets back, she'll stifle a laugh and grab the point and shoot camera, because Tom and the kids have fallen asleep together on the couch, watching the movie Rango. Years later, when the kids have grown up and moved out, Sarah will look at that photo of 6 sleeping legs covered by a single blanket and smile. And that's what receiver Stevie Johnson is thinking about when he drops the ball in the end zone. And why, to pump themselves up before every game, the entire offensive line will listen to the song Father and Son by Cat Stevens. Coach Doug Marone's Motorola headset isn't even connected to his coaching staff, but instead to his grandson Peter, who he talks through his math homework during games.
All right. So I love that clip. I love that joke. Yeah, it reminds me, you know what? Everything in life happens for a reason. Mike Woodson will soon be gone, and new days will be upon us. And it makes you think, you know what? If you're not going to like 3 or 4 basketball games this year, you got an extra couple $1,000, do something nice for your family. Maybe you want to go on a ski trip instead of going to an IU basketball game, or, that's what I plan on doing. Snowboarding this winter or whatever. it's a 3-hour drive for me down there. So, I just don't like to go down there on a whim, but I will, because I love it. But thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Indiana Sports Connection. Thank you for being here today. Until next time, stay classy out there, Hoosier fans.